Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode. Today is kind of a little different, but it's a subject that I feel is very prevalent these days. You're probably wondering who this gentleman is on the other side of the screen. Well, we're gonna get into that and explain. Recently, I had several phone calls within the last year or so. I've had about a dozen phone calls from people claiming to call and say they're calling from a bank because some account has been opened in my name, or from some government agency looking for me as there's some warrant out for my arrest or something like this. And naturally, if you weren't aware of the situation, you wouldn't realize that it's a scam. And that just so happens to be what we're going to talk about today. So happened to have befriended one of these people. He called me not too long ago. We had a brief discussion. I was aware of what was happening. And over the course of our 6-minute conversation, we kind of established a quick little relationship. And he was kind enough to decide to explain to us how it all works. So I think we're pretty lucky scammers. I don't know if that's the proper way to refer to him, but let's see what he has to say.
Hello everyone, my name is Pavel. I work in a scam call center. Our main area is the territory of Europe. My job consists of tricking people, stealing their money, and eventually sending that money to my account. At this center, I've been working for about half a year, but overall, I've been working in scamming people for 1 year. What drove me to work in this sphere is that I didn't have a job. There weren't enough finances. I didn't have money. And I mean that there wasn't enough money or finances in the whole family. Morally speaking, I would say that these people would be tricked sooner or later anyways. This is why I feel no remorse, because in the end, they would have found a different way to lose this money, so I don't feel bad about what I do. The scam business is quite prevalent in the country where I live. We don't only steal money from Europe. There's actually lots of countries we steal money from. For example, the Russian Federation and Kazakhstan, also Turkey. In those countries, the scammers they do well. They make quite a bit amount of money, even more than the scammers who work in Europe. But it's not because the people are dumber. It's just that they have more money, and the available ways for the scammers to collect the money it's easier. And of course, the databases are easier to get. You might be wondering, how does a person fall into a scam? It can start with a person simply just entering their phone number somewhere on some site or Facebook, and this information goes to some database. And of course, your full name, your telephone number, other useful information is now available online. If you think you fell under a scam, well, the system was thought through quite well. There are actual scripts that we have to follow, and the managers are trained very well.
People can tell you have a Ukrainian accent. So naturally, they're going to wonder, where exactly are you located? What can you tell them about where you are located?
I won't say exactly where I'm located. But I can say across the whole of Ukraine, there are these scam call centers. But you shouldn't say this is only happening from Ukraine. Many of these scam centers are now located in Europe. But there are many in Lvov, in the Kiev region, but most of the scam call centers have now moved to Lvov and Kiev. These areas are safe for scammers. But again, it's safe to say that in every large city, there are going to be at least a few scam centers like this. There's at least 4 other cities that I know. They're not big, but you'll find scam centers there. And this is a fact. The largest center was in Bryansk, and in about half a year, and this is official information that the Russian Federation published, that they stole 300 million rubles in a half year. And they stole this directly from the Russian Federation. And you have to think, well, the average employee was earning between 2 million and 10 million hryvnia per per week. I'm sure you can imagine that that is a great amount of money to be earning. There are special methods that we use to take the money. For example, we can spoof an account or just do a regular transfer. Using these methods, we can, just like a normal transaction, send money from one card to another. Even in Czech Republic, we have special people that act as a middleman to whom the money is sent, and then they send it to us. So my main job, for example, is to get you to authorize a transaction to send money to this middleman. And then that middleman will then send the money to different accounts or even convert it to cryptocurrency. Why cryptocurrency? Well, it's just for the purpose of changing it to cash. There are special money exchangers or money changers that will change cryptocurrency directly to cash. Really, it's not that difficult. The most important thing is to have a middleman who will agree to send the money. There's also another way of doing it. We can actually create a middleman without him even knowing it. For example, we can take an alcoholic, get all of his documents, create all of his accounts without him knowing it, and then simply just use his accounts to send the money, and he'll never know otherwise. It's really not that hard. The most important thing is to have a text, some type of a script, and a database of people to call. And of course, the middleman. All of this is already thought through before I even make my calls. My script is very clear. If you say you don't want to speak in Russian or English, I have answers for that. If you say you want to go to the police, I have answers for that. Any possible option that you think you could use to end the phone call, I have a reply that should make you stop.
In my experience, in the 5 to 6 calls that I have had from these people, there's kind of what I call a common theme in the way that they speak to you and the language they use. Why do they always have this aggressive, angry tone?
Well, just think about it. You make 120 phone calls per day, give or take, and many of the people tell you to go to hell or say something else that's not very nice. Maybe this is why they're aggressive, but according to the rules, you shouldn't be like that. The only time you get aggressive or start to put pressure on a person is if they're starting to realize there's something wrong or they want to leave the conversation. At that point, it's okay to get aggressive. If they say, I'm going to go to the bank or the police or whatever, at that point you become aggressive, and it tends to work. But to just call a person and be aggressive, well, in some organization, mistakes like this could get you beat up. There are several organizations that are very rough towards their managers for making mistakes, and beatings are not uncommon.
Well, I think that brings up a really interesting point. Why do you have no fear working for these companies? Aren't you afraid of either getting in trouble with the law, or on the other side, if you don't do well enough, these guys could beat you up or worse?
Who says I'm not scared? I am scared. Even right now I'm scared doing this interview. But the desire to help my family is higher than the fear I have of these people. Look at it this way. Before the war, before the economic situation, I probably would have not gone into this job. But due to the situation happening, I had to do it. I do understand that I'm not doing something good. But sooner or later, these people would have their money stolen by someone at a casino or whatever. So if someone's going to take their money, it might as well be me. I do understand that the majority of the money we make goes to my bosses. You know, if I can make anywhere between 5 and 10%. If I just collect the information and give it off to someone higher, I can get 5%. But if I follow it through and actually get the money myself, I can make as much as 10% of the total that we took. But again, I have a nice job The people I work with are not that bad, and in this country, I am lucky for that. I'm lucky that I didn't end up with a worse group of people that are the bosses.
Have you ever heard of anybody getting seriously injured, like beaten up very seriously, or even worse, maybe killed or something like that?
There were some people I heard about that were acting as middlemen. They collected money to their account, but they never gave it to their organization. And for this, the punishment was they got their legs broken. It did happen to some people, not that anybody that I know of personally, but I heard about these people, and then I heard that they left the country. Where they went, I don't know, but everybody said that they immediately left the country after their legs were broken, and they gave the money back.
And how much money would you say you have stolen in your career?
That's a difficult question. I can't say exactly how much I stole, but I can say it's less than $1 million.
And how much would you say you have earned from that? What has been your income?
I can say how much I earn. So on average, per week, I make between $500 and $1,200. For example, last week I had $820. Some of the money I put away for the future, some I put towards repairing my car, and some I just had fun with. But in terms of how much you can earn, that really depends on how much you work and what you're able to do. But there are some guys that earn really well.
Do your parents know what you do, and how do they feel about it?
Yes, of course, they are negative they're unhappy with my decision.
You have spent 1 year of your life working at this call center. Do you think that it has been worth it?
Yes, it has been worth it to do this. Firstly, besides just going to work, I have been able to study human psychology. It's extremely interesting to me to see what a person's reaction is when all this is happening, how they think. And I've learned a lot about that. I've learned a lot about the thought process of everyone during these operations. Remember, you don't see the person. You just hear their voice. And in the split second, you have to understand what to say to this person and react to them. And there's not a lot of time for that. It's really interesting. But on the other hand, I don't really feel bad for these people. Like I already said, sooner or later this would have happened anyways.
How long would you say the average scam lasts? How long from the first phone call until you're able to get some money?
First, we have a junior specialist who makes the phone calls, what you could call cold calling. Then you have a senior specialist or an employee of the bank who is in on this, to whom the phone goes to next. The job of the cold caller is to get information. Bank name, account number, and how much money that you have. Then the phone goes to the senior specialist. The senior specialist's job is to force the person to go into their private bank account or download an app called AnyDesk. AnyDesk is like a remote control software or an application that lets you remotely control someone's screen and also just to see what they're doing, like a mirror. We use this so that we can watch the screen of the person without them knowing that we're doing it. When the person logs into their internet banking, all of the information is now visible to the senior specialist. For example, the number of the card or the account number, just anything that's secret is now visible to us. While they're doing whatever it is that we're telling them to do, I'm writing down the numbers, maybe the CVV code on the back of the card, whatever it is, I'm trying to copy it down. If the person starts to say, well, I should go to the bank and do this at the bank, you have about 3 or 4 answers you automatically give them that discourages them from doing it. And while this is all happening, I'm already making a transaction for where he should send the money, or I can send the money myself. And the money will be sent to the middleman, who then give it to us. And once the kind of process starts to finish up, you tell the person, well, now that you've been able to stop this scam, your accounts are now insured. So click these buttons or authorize these transactions so we can verify it. At this point, the person keeps pressing the button to authorize the transactions. Maybe it's once, maybe it's several times. Once enough money has already left the account, the senior specialist, hangs up and immediately runs to withdraw the funds from, his bank account or from the middleman's bank account. And that's it. There's no chance to get the money back at this point.
Are you guys protected by the mafia or by the government?
Of course, we're being protected. All organizations like this have protection. Just think about how much money is taken. Of course, there's a structure. At our organization, I don't know who is at the top of the structure. It's probably almost certainly organized crime groups, or it's some kind of a ghost structure, and you'll never really determine who's at the top.
How many people would you say work in your office?
Actually, you could divide it into two sections. In reality, we probably have about 50 people. In one office are Russian-speaking agents. In the other part, international languages. We have a guy who speaks English, even one guy who speaks Czech, and Armenian and languages like that.
What advice can you give to anyone watching this video on how to not become the next victim?
Don't be naive in this world. Double check all information that you're being given over the phone from people who you don't know. One of the reasons, even though I was involved in scams, one of the reasons why I agreed to this interview is to educate people and to show them that even if, let's say, someone calls you claiming to be the president, you have to be more aware that you still don't know this person on the other end of the line. And you cannot trust anything they say, even if they say it's not confidential information. Even if they say, I can't do anything with this information. It may be true. They can't do something with that type of information, but you're still opening the door to giving them something that you don't realize could be harmful. So be aware, pay attention, and realize the world is not so nice. But I want to do something good, and maybe something can come out of this. Be really careful. The world is not as nice of a place as you may think. But I hope that something good comes of this, just to put a little good back. And again, don't be naive. Double check all the information.
I think that's an interesting dynamic for me to analyze you as a person. Because on the one hand, you say, if I don't do this, someone else will. So I might as well be me, the person who scams, this idiot. But on the other hand, you seem to have a care for people and kind of to do a good thing to prevent this in the future. And I wonder, because it's so different from me that I would never do this. I don't think there'd be any situation where I would do this kind of work. But granted, I understand that some people are located in areas where jobs are not available, where the economy is quite awful, or there's just no other choice.
I did this because of my family, and also because these people are easy to trick, easy to fool. Look, if you've ever been tricked, the first thing you'll do is probably get upset because you're an idiot. But the second thing you should do is be grateful that you have learned and that it should never happen to you again, because now you're aware of it.
It's just so funny to me. We've been on this interview for, I would say, more than 1 hour, I think. And I see such a big difference in the way we were raised. So we never discussed your age, but I'm going to assume you're probably between 18 and 23 years old, something like that. And I'm older. I would say considerably older than you. But I think there's a big difference in the way we were raised. I grew up in America in not a wealthy area, but my parents always tried their best. They really worked really, really hard to show us that everything was perfect, even though, it was definitely a struggle. From what I can tell, I think your parents probably as well tried to work really hard to give you a good life, and you've chosen this path, you know. And I can see that at your age, you have a much more, I don't know if realistic or realism is the right word to use versus my naiveness or naivety, as you would say, I think. And that's such a difference to me. It's so difficult for me to understand.
I can't say the atmosphere I grew up in was bad. Absolutely not. But the situation became so critical that I had no other choice but to do this job. But at the same time, I don't have any debts. I don't have anyone I owe money to. I'm not tied to anything. You have to understand, our country is one where $5,000, your $5,000, could be spent in 1 hour. But I think that in the US, $5,000 is a huge amount of money. But here, it's as if they're not even yours. This is my opinion of the United States.
Well, I think for now, I'd like to say, it's not every day that you can meet someone who is so willing to share the type of information you've shared. So I want to thank you for being so open, so honest. And I think deep down in your heart, you would be happy to know that this video, if it's seen by somebody, or if it isn't, let's say the few or many people that would see this video would hopefully learn how not to become a victim. And I think that deep down in your heart, as in mine, you would feel good about that. So let's hope that this video does some good somewhere. And I want to thank you for your time and that you participated in this.
I really hope that because of this interview, there's going to be a lot of people in my country without a job. I'm talking specifically about the scammers. But again, for this to stop fully, people have to be smarter. The easiest person to trick is an idiot. You'll never trick a smart person, or it's really hard. By the way, Igor, you're a smart person yourself. You didn't get tricked after all. That's why I thank you for inviting me. It was great to meet you and to discuss this, and I wish everyone a good day.
Okay, everybody, thanks for watching. Tune in next time for another episode, and good luck and goodbye.